Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it. You will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel. And today we have with us another special guest, and he goes by the name of Aaron Kopfinger. So what makes Aaron special? Well, Aaron was actually one of the students in the Medical Sales Career Builder, and he was someone that was in a medical sales position, but he wanted to be in a different space. And when he found our team and worked with our coaches, he was able to get himself into a position that's completely changed his life. This is something that if you're trying to get in, you got to listen to this episode, because he's someone that had a vision, he found a resource, and he took full advantage, and here he is. So as always, thank you for listening to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I really do hope you enjoy this interview. Hey, Aaron, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great, Samuel. How you doing?
Fantastic. No complaints. So, Aaron, before we get started, I have to share with everyone, this is another special episode because Aaron, he's actually a graduate from the Medical Sales Career Builder program. He found us from the current position he was in, and now he's now a medical sales representative, proud to say, but I'm not going to ruin it. Take us back to what job did you have before you found Evolve Success?
Yeah, so most recently, I was actually working in Pharma, a pretty small company selling cough, cold, allergy medicine, and then made the transition.
So,
yeah.
What was going on? Talk to us a little bit about. First of all, tell us a little more. You were doing pharmaceuticals. What type of product were you selling? What kind of customers were you calling on? Was it inside, outside? What was the position?
Yeah, so it was all outside sales. It was kind of like the door to door of med sales. So I basically stop in, talk to urgent cares, family practice, dermatology here and there, a pretty wide range of clinics. But it was all mostly upper respiratory, symptomatic treatment, things like that. Common cough, cold, allergy type symptoms, working with that. And then we had some co-promotes and things like that where we worked in the dermatology space. So yeah, it was a pretty wide range of stuff. So
that's where you were. Talk to us about why did you want to change? What was happening in your life? What was happening in your career? You say, you know what? I think I want to explore something different.
Yeah, I think we kind of have to go a little bit further back. So a little bit more about my background. I graduated in biochemistry pre-med. So I was on that med track, decided that I wanted to do med sales for a plethora of reasons, which I'll gladly go into later. But what I did know is that I love being in the OR. I love being involved in surgeries. I liked having some kind of patient type ownership where I had some form of responsibility in getting a patient where they needed to be or where they wanted to be. And so it was always my intention, I think from the very beginning, to get to where I am right now. And then on top of that, my big issue was I had the medical side down. I was really good with that. Did well in school, things like that, but I just didn't have the real sales experience. Unless you consider fireworks as a sales experience, not a whole lot to go on there. So I got into the pharma space. It was really the first job that I could kind of relate to med sales or to device sales. And so I did that for a while. And my goal there was just, be the top rep, do as good as I can, and then transition into the device space.
The only way to be. So how did you find us? How did that happen?
Yeah. Goodness. I think I was on Spotify one day, and I was cruising in the car. I was on my way back at the time I was living in New Orleans, and I was working down in South Louisiana. And I was just cruising, and I was like, there's got to be a medical sales podcast. Like all these people that they all listen to podcasts. I was like, I'm gonna be a podcast guy, whatever. And so I ended up searching, medical sales podcasts, and you popped up, and I listened to my first episode. I can't remember. I wish I could remember the episode, but
Okay.
yeah, that was my first dose, and then I heard the Evolve Your Success at the end of the episode, and I was like, okay, like let me take a look at this. Let's see what's going on.
Wow. So, okay, I guess I want to know what was going on though that made you say, okay, where were you in the stage of wanting to make the transition that made you even say, I should listen to a podcast?
Yeah, I was, it's kind of tough. But I was in pharma. I was doing really well, but I just didn't feel I didn't have the fulfillment part that I really wanted. I was like, I'm doing really well, but if it's not making me feel good about what I'm doing, and
Oh,
then what's the point? That was kind of my perspective
sure,
on it.
sure.
And so that was just kind of the moment where I was like, maybe there's something else out there that is going to kind of tie that knot and make me feel good about what I'm doing.
And
Uh,
that's when you decided to listen to a podcast.
exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So then you listen to the podcast. You ultimately talked to us. What helped you make the decision to join the medical sales career builder program?
Yeah. I think my big thing was, I had talked to some people in med sales prior to joining the program. And their advice to me was like, just do everything you can. If you're going to come out of pharma and try to get a med device, like you got to really just be like the top rep. Like, you got to, do whatever. Um, and so for me, it was the time. Like I spent so much time working the job I had. I was like, my only goal was, be at the top of leaderboards. Um, and so while I was successful in doing that, I was still having issues kind of, I had done some interviews here and there before, and but I wasn't really getting anywhere. I'd get, two, three interviews in and then kind of dead end. And it was kind of the moment where I realized I was like, maybe I'm not as good at talking about myself as I thought I was. I was like, maybe I need some help. And so that's when, I think we hopped on a phone call, and we were talking about it. And, it just gave me the opportunity to, still pursue my goal of, doing really well in the job that I had, but also working towards something else.
Amazing. That's amazing. So in the program, we won't get into the nitty gritties of it, but what are some of the highlights you would say that really served you, that you experienced in the program in your pursuit to get in this position?
Yeah. I think the number one thing was really just the mentorship. Being connected to people who have had wild success in the industry, some who conduct interviews themselves or are involved in the interview process with their respective companies. They just have a very wide range of perspectives, and it's not all about we're looking for this one type of person to fill this role, and everyone has their own unique identity. And so working with them and helping to bring that out, I think was really what helped me. But yeah.
You couldn't have said it better. Take us to the moment you got the call that you got the job. Where were
Yeah.
you? What was that like?
Oh man. So when I actually got the job, it was kind of weird. It was like I had like kind of a moment where I was like, before I had gotten the job, I think it was after my third round of interviews, I had flown to Dallas and flown back from Dallas in the same day. And I got back to the airport, and I was walking out to my car in the parking lot, and I was just so like physically and emotionally just tired. Um, and I was just walking. I already knew I was going to go to the next round, and I was just walking, and like I just got like so emotional walking to my car, and I was like, I might not ever see this airport again. Like this is crazy. But and so then I kind of had my moment before my actual moment. But I was sitting at home on my desk, and my parents live not far away, so I got the call and super excited, jumped in the car, drove straight there, and talked to them and broke it down to them, and
I
they
love it.
know it was something I'd wanted for so long, so it was just a really great family moment.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Um, you know, so let's do it this way. we have listeners right now, people that were just like you, Aaron, that were thinking about being in medical sales, or maybe they want to make sure just like you did. Maybe they want to go pharma to medical device, medical device to something else in the healthcare sales space.
Sure.
What would you tell them about why they should take the path that you did and do this program to get that next opportunity?
I think it's really easy to, analyze ourselves and feel like we're really good at, something. And, if we don't have that extra kind of that voice, talking to us, then it's kind of hard to know what we're good at and what we're not good at and where we shine and where we don't. And for me, it was, I don't really love talking about myself that much. I'm not a super, I guess I'm a pretty quiet guy. But just having someone there to, to motivate me and say, like these parts of your life, these are all important. All these things are important. Like they make you who you are. And let's just figure out a way to bring that to light. I think for that crowd, I think this is the best possible way you could go. You have so many people, surrounding you to motivate you. You have people who are in the same spot as you. So if you're on your 200th resume submission and you're tired of it, I would definitely give EYS a go.
Hey, put it out there. Put it out there, and that's awesome. Aaron, it was a pleasure working with you. You're a fantastic individual, and you're destined for great things. I can't wait to see all the amazing you do in the med sales space. So let's not keep anybody in any further suspense. What is the actual job you have now? And of course, how's it going?
Yeah, so I'm working with KLS Martin in the craniomaxillofacial space. So we basically do custom implants, plates, equipment. We do a lot of trauma, jaw surgeries, cranioplasties. We really touch on a lot of different things. And then I think last week I got to cover my first rib case. So we do some stuff in the thoracic space as well. So it's a pretty wide ballpark, and I'm still learning all the ins and outs of it.
Yeah.
But it's been really great so far. I've seen some really cool stuff.
That's so exciting. What would you say is the, we always think, but let me say it differently. We can assume what we think an experience will look like before we get it, right? Oh, I'm probably doing this, I'm probably doing that. No. Now that you're in it, I'm sure you had all kinds of wild ideas, but now you've done it, you're in it. What are the things that just strike you as different? You didn't think it would be what it is.
So I guess for me, being in the pharma space, I got to very much make my own schedule. I was kind of just, I'll go here this day. Of course, you have kind of a plan, and you being precise about it and smart about where you're going. But now it's like you have these cases lined up. You have to be this place, this place, this place, this place, and then all of a sudden you have a trauma case that shows up, and you got to drive all the way across town in the middle of 5 o'clock traffic. So it's the flexibility of it. It really, I think people kind of underestimate the everyday is different part about med device sales, but really every day is different. No day is alike.
That is,
but yeah.
Wow. And so far, I mean, how long have you been in the actual role? How many months?
Yeah, a month and 2 days.
Wow. You can barely say months with an S. Okay, so what I want to know is, so far, what do you love the most?
What do I love the most? So I guess it really varies company to company. So for KLS, like we're involved in the patient planning process, the actual procedure, working with, these 3D models, virtual 3D models, and making adjustments and going from there, and, having everything contoured to each individual patient. Right. And so being involved in that process I think is just really cool. Really getting to be a impactful player in this patient's future. That, and then being in those meetings and then seeing it actually unfold in the actual surgery. It's just, you get the full life cycle, and it's just it feels good every single time.
Wow, man. Look, we are excited for you, Aaron. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us. And again, I can't wait to see all the wonderful things you can do in that space. We got one more thing to do before we wrap up today. Are you ready?
Sure.
This is the lightning round, Aaron. Okay, here we go. All right. So first question, What is the best book you've read in the last 6 months?
I knew you were going to ask this question, so I brought it with me. The Psychology of Influence
Woo!
has been my most recent book.
And where did you find out when to read that you should be reading that book, Aaron?
So it was actually the last. So with EYS, you get a reading list, great books, and was working on. I was about to start this book right before I got the call and then I got the job. And
Okay.
I was like, you know what, let me just finish this cycle. Let me finish this book. And I wish I would have read this book first. So it's been a really great experience.
Awesome.
But
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Best TV show or movie you've seen in the last 6 months?
Oh, TV show. Only because it's the most recent, The Diplomat. Watch that.
What's now that I've never heard of? What's The Diplomat?
It's on Netflix. It follows. There's a lot in one. There's multiple storylines going on kind of at the same time, but it's centered around a U.S. embassy in the U.K. And there's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't want to spoil anything
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know
I'm
you
sure
actually watched
people are going
it.
to be listening. Like, what is he doing? Okay, I get it. I get it. But it's worth a watch.
100%. Yeah, it
100%.
is
All
a
right, The
different
Diplomat.
style than what I'm used to, but I love it. So,
Okay, okay, noted. What's the best restaurant or meal you've had in the last 6 months?
so I was living in New Orleans before I moved to Austin, Texas. Best place has got to be Commander's Palace. Got to take my mom out there for dinner. Hit up the course sampling meal. You get like 6 or 7 different,
Ooh, sounds
things that
delicious.
come in, all paired
Yes,
with a good drink. So in Louisiana, that's what it's all about.
Commander's
So
Palace. That's happening. And then last but not least, what's the best experience you've had in the last 6 months?
it's got to be getting the job. You work towards something for so long. For me, it was a probably a 6 month process where I was just sending in applications, and I just felt like I was wasting my time for so long, and then finally something sticks, and all the waves of emotion kind of come through, and there's nothing better, no better feeling than seeing your dreams kind of come to reality, and all the work that you put in and all the time and effort actually pay off. So there's nothing better.
Absolutely, and we get to share it with you. So that's why we do this, because we want to be able to share that blessing of taking life to a whole new level, which you've done. And I'm so glad you were a graduate in our program. Aaron, keep doing the good things you're doing. You're going to do great things, and we'll be catching up with you. And thank you for your time on the Medical Sales Podcast.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
And that was Aaron Kopfinger. This is what it's all about. He's a graduate that really wanted to change his life. He found a resource, and he did. But something that I think people don't talk about enough is the hard work that goes into these resources. A program designed to help you get where you want to be only works if you work it. You got to be willing to take the advice that you're given. You got to be willing to consistently put out there all the work that's necessary. I think too often people feel everyone gets excited by the prospect of something new. Everyone should get excited, because that's why they're going after it in the first place. They see a vision, they want to be there, they want to be a medical sales rep, and they say, you know what, I'm going to make this happen. They find the resource, they're so excited, they're ready to go. And then something happens, that I've seen over the years. When they get into it, when they start working at it, it's going to get challenging. It's going to get tough. In some cases, it's going to feel like nothing's working. But what I continue to see is when you stick it out consistently for at least 4 to 5 months or 3 to 4 months, it all clicks and the magic just starts to happen. However, when you stop doing the work, maybe a month and a half in or 2 months in, because you're not seeing what you want to see, and you check out, of course, 2 months after that, nothing's going to happen. And what I like to make the analogy to with getting into this medical sales space, this medical sales industry, is it very much operates like sales. Because when you are a medical sales rep, the reality is you're going to have some rock star quarters, you're going to have some average quarters, you're going to have some poor quarters. But what separates those that succeed from those that don't is the ones that have those poor quarters or have those stalled quarters, for lack of a better phrase. They do it anyway. They work through it. They apply their best practices. And if they realize that their best practices aren't getting them where they need to be, they go out and find the best practices to make that happen. I like to say that getting into medical sales in a lot of ways mirrors what you're going to experience when you're in medical sales. So if you want to be in this space, you know what I'm going to say. You better go to evolveyoursuccess.com because the resources are there. But more importantly, when you get a hold of that resource, and let me say this for anyone, any resource, you need to work that program. You need to utilize the resources. You need to do what you're supposed to do, and you need to do it consistently with a relentless vigor, no matter what is going on in your life, no matter what is going on with anything around you or that's connected to you. Because if this is what you really want, if this is where you really want to be, it's here for you. It truly is here for you. As always, we do our best to bring you guests that are doing things differently in the medical sales space. And again, if you're trying to get in, you know where to go, evolveyoursuccess.com. Make sure you tune in next week for another episode of the Medical Sales Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top-performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.